Welcome to the financial aspects of the FHWA ER program in Florida. The Federal Highway Administration Emergency Relief Funding Program is administered by Central Office of Federal Aid Management, or FAMO. FAMO is a program area within the Office of Work Program and Budget under the Finance and Administration Division of FDOT. This presentation will cover the following topics related to the administration of the FHWA ER program and the financial responsibilities included in the management of the program. The topics to be covered are: when are federal authorizations needed? That would be for both emergency repairs and permanent repairs. The timeline on ER program financial processes. That would mean from landfall to project financial closing. The coordination of financial information, including DDIRs, or Detailed Damage Inspection Reports, pre-event contracting, indirect cost reimbursement, recording event and DDIR information in the financial database, the assignment of financial project numbers, and federal project numbers. Monitoring ER projects for ongoing and completed, and information resources such as reports and publications. The FHWA ER program defines work performed into two categories: emergency versus permanent repairs. Emergency repairs may commence immediately following the occurrence without an approved federal authorization request. Emergency repairs have expedited procurement procedures. Emergency repairs are 100% federally reimbursed within 270 days following the occurrence. Permanent repairs must have an approved federal authorization request before work commences in order to get reimbursed. Permanent repairs follow normal FHWA procurement procedures. Permanent repairs receive normal percentage reimbursements depending whether on interstate, other federal aid highways, or on federal lands. FAMO has defined FDOT responsibilities and a timeline of the ER program. The FDOT timeline represents activities outlined in the FHWA ER program and the expectation of a reasonable amount of time to acquire required information to obtain FHWA ER funding, maintain financial activities, and complete the project funding process. Landfall of an emergency or disaster establishes the emergency or disaster start date. Pre-event activities are not eligible for FHWA ER funding. Determination of a governor's proclamation or executive order and/or a presidential declaration. FDOT creates an emergency event in the FHWA ER data portal and prepares letter of intent by the end of week 1 following landfall. Note, if it appears financial thresholds have been met or exceeded, and the current threshold is a minimum estimate of $700,000 statewide. FHWA acknowledges FDOT's event and the letter of intent by the end of week 2 following landfall and records in the FHWA ER data portal. FDOT may provide a damage survey summary report to FHWA by the end of week 7 following landfall. The purpose is to describe the general nature and extent of the disaster for the FHWA Division Administrator to make a finding of eligibility. Initial damage assessments may be based on windshield surveys of sample sites or detailed damage inspections if available. By the end of week 7, FDOT prepares an application letter requesting ER funds using best estimates of damage at the time, accompanied by the Damage Survey Summary Report. Finding of eligibility is determined by FHWA Division Administrator. The Division Administrator notifies FDOT that ER funding for the disaster is approved. Generally, this occurs by the end of week 9 following landfall. FHWA notification serves as the finding that a natural disaster or a catastrophic failure has occurred, causing substantial damage to federal aid highways, and that the disaster is eligible for ER funding. Concurrent with finding of eligibility, FHWA Division Office requests an allocation of ER funds from FHWA Office of Program Administration at FHWA headquarters in Washington, D.C. FDOT's current policy is that detailed damage inspection reports, or DDIRs, should be completed by the end of week 13 following landfall. DDIRs are used to prepare the comprehensive list of projects, otherwise referred to as a program of projects. Depending on the nature of the event and the level of catastrophic damage, this is a reasonable amount of time for DDIRs to be completed, signed, and approved by FHWA. The program of projects is prepared by FHWA in central office, based on approved DDIRs and financial project information in FDOT's Work Program Administration database, known as WPA. Program of Projects report is submitted to FHWA Division Office by the end of week 15 following landfall. Descriptions and cost estimates for each project are supported by a corresponding detailed damage inspection report and the associated financial projects. FHWA Division Office approves the program of projects submitted by FDOT generally by the end of week 17 following landfall. Requests for additional ER funds over and above the initial request must be based on final approved program of projects and related DDIRs. Increases more than 20% above the original DDIR estimate require a revised, signed, and approved DDIR. Upon approval by FHWA of the program of projects, permanent repair projects may be scheduled for letting, and authorization requests may be approved. In accordance with FHWA Emergency Relief Manual, all eligible ER projects must have construction authorized in the federal financial system by the end of federal fiscal year 2 following landfall. Most, if not all, emergency repairs should be complete by the end of week 38 following landfall, or 270 days. It is important to remember that the approval of projects by FHWA does not guarantee the availability of ER funds. DDIRs with both emergency repairs and permanent restoration require 2 financial project numbers and 2 federal aid project numbers. FHWA requires separation of cost prior to reimbursement. Therefore, FDOT's preference is to have separate DDIRs for emergency repair and permanent restoration. FHWA issued a programmatic agreement in August of 2020 identifying procurement requirements of pre-event permanent repair contracts. Further guidance can be obtained from the Work Program Instructions, Part 3, Chapter 10, Emergencies, Disasters. A link is provided on the resources page. FHWA allows for indirect cost reimbursement for ER projects based on predetermined cost allocation rates. FDOT elects to program indirect phases based on the cost allocation rate, multiplied by the programmed amount of the direct phase. Indirect costs are not a part of the DDIR. Once FDOT receives FHWA's event acknowledgement, Central Office records event information in the Financial Management Work Program Administration database. Required event data includes the department's emergency event detail and the FHWA assigned event ID, date of landfall, and day 181, which is FHWA's date from landfall. Emergency repair work performed after day 180 is reimbursable at a lesser federal share.
On November 15, 2021, the 117th Congress passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, which increased the 100% emergency repair participation timeframe from 180 days to 270 days. Older events are not eligible. All emergency repairs for events after January of 2022 are eligible for the new time frame. No other changes to the ER program occurred.
Financial information for eligible FHWA ER funding is coordinated with Central Office of Work Program Development, Federal Aid Management, District Work Program staff, and District Federal Aid coordinators. Financial project numbers, or FPID, are distributed from Central Office Work Program Development to the District Work Program staff. District Federal Aid coordinators record assigned FPIDs with cost breakout to approved DDIRs and submits electronic DDIR and FPID cost breakout to Central Office Federal Aid Management ER coordinator. Cost breakout cannot exceed the total DDIR. Central Office ER Coordinator associates DDIR data in the Project Cost Management database, uploads DDIRs to the Central Office OWPB Emergency Report, and assigns federal aid project numbers. District Federal Aid staff submit authorization requests for ER projects in the Federal Aid Management System. Refer to Work Program Instructions, Part 3, Chapter 10, Emergencies Disasters, for programming guidelines. A link is provided on the resource page. Recording the DDIR data in the Project Cost Management database consists of the district assigned DDIR number, the type of repair, E for emergency or P for permanent. Project type code is identified as the Detail Inspection Report, or DIR. A brief description of repair based on the FM description, the FDOT assigned emergency event code, and the managing district. To complete the process, association of the FPID and cost breakout are included in the transaction, and costs are rounded to whole dollars. Remember, the total amount recorded cannot exceed the approved DDIR total. The electronic signed approved DDIR is then uploaded to the OWPB Central Office Emergency Report. Uploaded DDIRs can be viewed on various reports and will be discussed later in the training. Once authorizations occur in the Federal Aid Management System, Central Office Federal Aid Management monitors ongoing ER projects and provides monthly reports to the District Federal Aid staff based on active and closing projects. This graph displays the total number of federal projects in active status by district as of August 31st, 2020. Another view of the monthly report displays the total number of federal projects in closing status by district. Closing projects have been submitted to Central Office of Comptroller for final voucher auditing. The OOC submits authorization requests in preparation of and to close federal projects. The monthly monitoring reports include a comparison of FHWA projects in active and closing status during the previous year. A final look at the monthly monitoring report shows the detail of all projects by event. For illustration purposes, we have identified the date of landfall below each event. Central Office uses the federal authorization reports to monitor expenditures to ensure projects do not become financially inactive. Other financial coordination of FHWA eligible project includes the closing process. The closing process is monitored by Central Offices of Federal Aid Management and Comptroller. projects must close in a timely manner in accordance with 2 CFR Part 200, the Super Circular. The period of performance with end date is required and must be recorded in all federal authorization requests. The end date must be based on estimated project schedule, should include time required to accomplish all physical work, plus the additional time required for final invoices to be received and paid, final federal reimbursements to be billed and collected from FHWA, and time for completing closing packages and/or any other type of required documentation immediately following completion of the physical work. This is an illustrative example of how the period of performance end date may be calculated for eligible projects. The calculation is based on the time period between the initial federal authorization and estimated timeline to proceed with work, complete construction, final reimbursement from FHWA, estimated time period for standard closing activities, and final voucher process. The goal is to complete the financial activities prior to the project becoming financially inactive. projects must not become financially inactive for more than 1 year, else the funds are in jeopardy of being withdrawn from the project. Local agency projects. FDOT personnel will be responsible for remaining in contact with local government staff while work is ongoing to ensure work is completed in accordance with federal standards. FDOT personnel must also ensure that timely invoicing is occurring for costs incurred by local governments and that final closing documents are obtained as soon as possible following project completion, such as final estimate, final acceptance. Oversight is typically performed by FDOT district staff. More information can be obtained for LAP projects from the LAP Manual, Chapter 23, Section 23.10.1. A link to the LAP Manual can be found in the FedTech Bulletin 1603. A link is provided on the resources page. A listing of documents needed for closing federal aid projects can be found in accordance with Central Office Federal Aid Management Technical Bulletin 1603. It is important to remember that all permanent road construction repairs require a full closing package. Permanent repairs are subject to the same federal requirements as a regular federally funded project. A link providing more information on FHWA guidelines can be found on the resources page. Final inspection and acceptance forms and full closing packages for permanent repair work are uploaded to the electronic document management system by the managing district prior to requesting the federal project status be changed to Ready Final Voucher. More information can be obtained for closing ER-LAP projects from the LAP manual. Information resources such as reports for FDOT statewide use can be found on the OWPB SharePoint site under the WPB Systems Support application. A link is provided on the resources page. One of the most common reports used is the Emergency Authorization Request Tracking Report. Users can define the field requirements to the screen or an Excel spreadsheet by district and emergency event. Fields include the capability to view project-specific information, including status, financial project detail, and funding codes. The report criteria entered for the report shown on the screen is specific to Hurricane Irma. The emergency event was the only field criteria chosen. All other fields were left at the default selection. Results return all federal projects for Hurricane Irma statewide and provide project-specific details, including state remarks and FHWA Florida Division remarks for the most recent authorization request submitted in the financial systems. The column heading DDIR number provides interactive link to the project-specific DDIR. Once you click the DDIR number, the previously uploaded DDIR, which was received by central office to record the financial information, is displayed. Please note that due to file size requirements, DDIR uploads will not contain pictures of damages. The uploaded document is supportive of financial requirements and must include the signed and approved DDIR form, and often the district will record assigned financial project numbers, or FPIDs, and cost breakout. The emergency report is also frequently used by FDOT. When utilizing this report, please remember, in order to see document links, you must check the selection box, Show Link Documents, on the appropriate report. The emergency report can be utilized in a variety of ways. The Central Office ER Coordinator logs on and utilizes the DDIR report to upload the approved and signed DDIRs as previously discussed. The most common selection criteria used is identified in the top box of the reporting options. They are reporting year, which is based on state fiscal year, and the recorded events in the reporting year selected. You can choose what version of work program to display. The report defaults to the G1 or tentative version. The report also defaults output to the screen, but you may choose an Excel format. Once you have completed selection criteria in the top box, you would then select the type of report to work with. The selected report determines if further selection criteria is available. We have chosen Report Year 2012, the version adopted, the event Debbie, the report type Emergency. Further selection criteria, click the box marked Show Link Documents. The emergency report options default, which is budgeting district, sort, and amount. Once you have completed your selection criteria, click the Detail button. The returned results for the Debbie event and state fiscal year 2012 are shown above. Active links will open a new tab in the browser. Active links include clicking the financial project, which the link opens the item segment overview report for the specified financial project. The contract number link opens the contract detail report. FA or final acceptance and DDIR document links will open the PDF of the applicable document chosen, final inspection and acceptance form, and/or approved signed DDIR. FA documents are loaded by the managing district when the project status is requested to ready final voucher. The closing documents were previously discussed in this training. Each report has a different selection criteria. For example, when choosing the document report, your selection does not require you to check the Show Link Documents box. Instead, opens a Documents to List option box. The DDIR option is chosen, and then you would click List. The return results for this selection, DDIR, would be a complete list of DDIR PDF documents for the Debbie event in report year 2012. Individual active links will open the uploaded DDIR documents. Emergency relief reference material is accessible on the OWPB SharePoint site. Active links include the FDOT Emergency Management SharePoint site, which contains financial information under the Finance menu. The Emergency Management Office is responsible for preparedness and event training. The EMO manages FEMA, or Federal Emergency Management Agency, reimbursement. The Federal Highway Administration link provides guidance on the Special Federal Aid Funding Program, including the ER manual, guidance documents, and additional information. The link to the department's official work program instructions opens the document, and once it loads, you can access the Emergencies Disasters chapter by clicking on Part 3, Chapter 10 in the table of contents. A link is also provided to the department's Office of Comptroller emergency response information, which contains important guides and resources, as well as coding requirements for emergency natural disaster response information. Communication is key to successful navigation through the federal reimbursement process for eligible events and projects. Central Office of Work Program and Budget staff can be found on the SharePoint site under Contacts. The Federal Aid Management Office administers the FHWA ER funding program and the financial aspects associated with the program. This concludes the financial aspects of FHWA's ER program in Florida. This is the portion where you are allowed to ask questions. Please let us know if you have any questions related to this presentation.